So here are all the useful iPhone tips you'll wish you knew sooner. Did you know that you could prioritize which apps download or update first? So if I head on over to my App Store to force update some apps, update all, and I go back to my home screen, I can see that there's a few updating, but I really want YouTube to update as quick as possible. I can long press on it and hit prioritize download, so it will bump to the top of the list and will download first while the rest are still updating. Now, when you're holding your phone with one hand, it's often really difficult to reach things at the top of your screen, especially with the bigger iPhones, like I have an iPhone 15 Pro Max. That reachability is sometimes challenging. So what's great is there's a reachability feature that makes this a lot easier. What you would do is flick towards the bottom of your phone to bring the top down, and then you can reach those top apps. You can also do it to open Control Center, and then if you flick again, it brings down Control Center in case that's what you're looking to access. I will say this motion definitely does take a little bit of practice. It really is kind of a flick versus a pull down or something on the bottom of your screen. And if it's really not working for you, you can head on into your settings, search reachability, and just make sure that reachability is toggled on. And while we're in Control Center, they've also added a power button at the top right so you can turn off your phone that way instead of holding the button on the side. But either will work. Now, the dynamic island has some mixed reviews, but I personally really do like it because whenever I'm listening to music, if I swipe up to exit the app, my music is now at the top in that dynamic island. So if I'm reading something on Safari, I can still see the music here at the top. And I can always click on the dynamic island to get back into music, or if I long press on the dynamic island, it'll open up a little window with my music, and I can interact with it, play, pause, whatever I need to do. But the other great thing is, if I do ever find what's in the dynamic island a little bit distracting, I can swipe to the left to get rid of it, and if ever I do that accidentally and want to bring it back, just swipe to the right and it will reappear. And to quickly switch between your open apps, instead of having to swipe up and click, you can just swipe between at the bottom, and it'll work regardless of which orientation your phone is in. So even if I'm in landscape mode watching a video, I can swipe to get back to Spotify. And the next tip is press and hold an app to bring up its shortcut menu. So instead of just clicking to open Safari or open YouTube, if I long press on YouTube, I can quickly get to search or my subscription. Same thing with Safari, long press I can quickly get to my bookmarks, my reading list, or even open a private tab. There are also some hidden tricks in Apple Notes that you may not know about. For example, I can long press on the Da button to quickly turn a word into a heading, and instead of having to open up the menu to indent, I can just indent by swiping to the right or swiping to the left to move it back. I feel like most people know by now that you can hold down on the spacebar to turn it into a trackpad and easily move your cursor around. But I bet you didn't know that you can hold 2 fingers down on your screen to move the cursor around, or hold down with 1 finger to zoom in to the word your finger is hovering over. And even quicker, you can swipe with 2 fingers to bring your cursor right to the beginning of the line, or swipe to the right to bring the cursor back to the right. As you know, single tapping will just place your cursor, but double tapping on a word will highlight the word, and triple tapping will highlight the entire paragraph. And what's awesome is, these gestures will also work if you're using your iPad, but also almost anywhere you can write. So even in mail or messages. And speaking of the Messages app, if you want to quickly send someone a photo, instead of just clicking on the plus button and selecting photos, what you can do is just long press on the plus button. And if you're someone that likes to send audio messages, you would just press on the plus button and hit audio, start talking, and it'll automatically record your message. Press stop when you're done, and then you would just hit the send arrow to send it off. But if you remember that you wanted to add something, instead of having to press X and re-recording your message, you can just press on that little plus button to the right to open the recording back up. Talk to add whatever it is you wanted to say, hit stop and send it. Or you can always press that plus button again if you want to add even more. Here are a few tips for Safari. So if ever you're on a web page that has a lot of ads, and just a lot of things that make it distracting, you can press on this button in the left of the URL bar and click on Hide Distracting Item. Then you can just tap on whatever you want to hide and scroll through, tap on everything, and it'll automatically hide any of those distracting items to make your reading experience a little bit better. And then once you're down at the end of the article, if you really quickly want to get back up to the top, you can just press on the top left of your phone and it'll quickly scroll you all the way back up. And to quickly get between your tabs, instead of pressing the tab button and then clicking to get to another tab, you can just use the URL bar as a trackpad and swipe between any of your open tabs. Then to close your tabs, again you could hit the tab button and manually close them. Or what you could do is just hold down on that tab button to close the specific tab you're on, or above to close all of your tabs. When you're in Maps, I feel like most of us know you can just pinch to zoom in, but that can be a little bit tricky when you are holding your phone with one hand. So what you can do is always double tap, or what you can do is tap and then hold to drag in and out of the map, and this will work in Google Maps as well. Next up, the camera app. So if I open the camera app, you probably know at the bottom you can quickly access and switch between different amounts of zoom. But you can also press this arrow at the top to open up even more controls. So this will let you click in to fine-tune the exposure, even the aspect ratio, and night mode. Then at the top I could quickly tap to change formats if I wanted to shoot in RAW, or I can hold down on that button to switch between even more formats. If you're someone that does like to adjust a lot of settings in the camera app, for example, if you do adjust the exposure, or maybe you don't like shooting in live photos so you always turn it off, or even night mode, what I recommend doing is going into your settings, down to the camera button, then down to preserve settings. And then you can turn on or toggle on any of the settings you want to save, essentially. So I'm pretty sure by default most of these are toggled off, which means anytime you open your camera app the settings reset. So instead, if you come in here and you turn on the ones you want saved or preserved, it just saves so much time when you're out taking a lot of pictures. Maybe walking around, you don't have to fine-tune these same settings every single time you open your camera. In the Photos app, you can quickly copy a photo by pinching in with 3 fingers, and it'll say copy at the top. Then I can quickly paste it by doing the opposite. So if I were to go into, let's say, Apple Notes, but it could also be Mail or Messages, I would just tap in and then use 3 fingers to spread out to paste. If you're someone that takes a lot of screenshots, you probably know that you can hold the lock button and the up volume to take a screenshot. But did you know that there's a feature that you can turn on that lets you just double tap on the back of your phone to take a screenshot, which is very, very useful if you're holding your phone with one hand. So if you do want to turn it on, you can go into Settings, and then just search for back tap and then the double tap feature. You can pick basically any of these options, so I've set it obviously to screenshot, but you can choose something else. Or if you think you double tap the back of your phone too often, you can switch it to triple tap if that's more convenient for you. So I think it's pretty cool. You can always turn double tap to screenshot and test it out. See if you do accidentally trigger it too much and switch it to triple tap if you need to. Then what's really convenient is once you've taken the screenshot, it opens that little preview in the bottom that you can tap on and you can access some markup features, or send it off to whoever you're sharing it with. But what you maybe didn't know is, if you long press on the screenshot preview, it will quickly open up the different share options. So if you don't need to mark up the screenshot or do any editing to it, this is a really quick way to send it off. Another thing you can now do in settings is if you go down to apps, you can now switch the default apps. So this can be really convenient if you don't use Apple native apps, or if you have like a work phone where you have to use Outlook or something like that. You can come in and let's say change email from Apple Mail to Gmail, or same thing with messaging to WhatsApp, browser to anything other than Safari, even the translation and the passwords apps. You can now come in and set your own defaults, which is really, really helpful. And if you didn't already know, you can also now change the default buttons on your lock screen. So if you long press on the lock screen, hit the Customize button at the bottom, tap on the lock screen again, and then you can remove whatever is currently there. Press the plus button and have a whole new bunch to choose from. And what's great is you can customize them for each of your different lock screens. So if you do use, let's say, a different lock screen at night, and you'd rather see the flashlight button and your alarm button, you can go in and customize them for each different one. If you got value out of today's video, let me know by giving it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more.